Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you look over us this evening. We know that you have so far up to this point. We know that you give out many blessings, and we know that the struggles that you sometimes put us through, we may not understand the reason, but we know you do. We ask that you give us in our hearts the faith to believe in you and keep going even during the hard times. There are many community members right now that need your peace. Some need your healing. Some need your grace. We know that you can do all this. We believe in you. We know that you can bestow this on them just by how you believe in all of us. Please wrap your arms around the families that need your peace. And again, they need your grace. All this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Please address the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I would ask that y'all all refresh your agenda there, and I will seek a motion to adopt the agenda.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
A motion to adopt the agenda and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Welcome everybody tonight. It's another big old crowd here in the middle of Bronson. It's good to have you. I would ask that we'll get started with Mr. Lott, if he wouldn't mind. Come on down.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's been a while. If you'll recall, we did introduce this and ask for permission to advertise a new policy, 7.13, which deals with purchasing policies and bidding. And this policy came to us from NEFEC. It's one of their model policies. The need for this policy arose after COVID. There was an influx of federal funding, and anytime the government, whether that be the federal government or the state government, gives you money, then they audit it. And out of those audits came some new rules that they decided that we should have. And the Code of Federal Regulations, there's some changes, and those are noted at the end of the policy. And because of that, there was a need to introduce a new policy. So at this time, this policy has been advertised for the required length of time, and we come to asking for permission to approve this particular policy.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? All right, we'll seek a motion to approve this policy.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further conversation?
Second.
Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you there, Mr. Lott. Mr. Bennett. Bennett obviously has important stuff. He's coming on down.
Members of the board.
Good evening.
So it's that time of year again. We do this process most every year where we need to look at class size compliance. And as you and the members of the public may know, it's written in the Florida Constitution that we have class size maximums. Those class size maximums, just for reference, are no more than 18 students per class in grades pre-K through 3, no more than 22 students per class in grades 4 through 8, and no more than 25 students per class in grades 9 through 12. Now, because all of our public schools are considered schools of choice, that metric is calculated at what the school calls a school average level by band. So if the school has more than one grade levels in more than one of those bands I mentioned, then each band gets its own number from the classrooms that the schools have that qualify. This calculation is taken during Survey 2 in October and again in Survey 3 in February, but the one that counts for compliance is always October, Survey 2. One last thing I would mention is that it's just very important to remember that the class size numbers that you see here may not be the exact, it will not be the exact number that you would see if you went and counted every single kid in every single classroom in that grade at the school. There's a subset of classes that count and don't count, so just be aware that the numbers that you see are not the actual true every single classroom, every single student count. And that's based on the numbers and the way that it's calculated by DOE. So for 24-25, survey 2 in October, as you can see in the compliance plan you have before you, we did have several schools that were out of compliance and were in more grade bands. So what I can tell you is that, as we always do, I brought the school data clerks together. We had a very intensive workshop one day where we worked to clean up anything and everything that we could to make the numbers as accurate as we could. There were also some extenuating circumstances this year. For example, Wilson Elementary and Chiefland Elementary both had some vacancies at the time of survey that were impacting the class size in some of their bands. So what you have before you is in product of all those efforts, and I do want to commend the clerks. They worked very hard with me on all that. What we would need the board to consider is this compliance plan. We would ask that you approve it, review it and approve it, and then we submit to DOE. And basically, that's where it is now. There have been some additional steps in the past, but at this point, where we're at now, submitting a completed and approved compliance plan is the end of the process. So with that, I'll pause and ask if there are any questions in particular.
What is the fee that we pay for? Isn't there a fee or
There is
no fee?
financial penalty.
Hmm?
There is no more.
No,
There
no
have
more
been.
fee. That
There
used
have
to
been.
be. Is, okay,
Yes.
okay.
Was that part of deregulation, or what was that, or what? or just
It was
something-
just a separate thing
Thing
that
that's what-
happened 2 or 3 years ago, I believe it was.
And so most of the time, it's because we don't have enough teachers at the beginning of the year that causes this.
That can be an impact if a school has vacancies. For example, what happened, and this happened in some cases this year, you may have let's say you have a kindergarten vacancy. Well, the kids are coming, so you may have to take those students and shift them to the other classrooms
Right,
that do have teachers,
exactly.
which
Yeah.
then puts you over the
Right,
cap.
right.
And then if you can, as has happened,
Mhm.
you can get that position higher, then you can shift them back
Right.
and things can work themselves out. And, you know, the class size compliance standard is a very specific number. So if you're at 18 or 22 or 25, and the reality is, you know, if you get 26 students, that
Yeah,
doesn't
right,
necessarily
you're not gonna get another teacher. That's
generate
right,
what you
exactly.
need for that, right? So,
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any more questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. All right, now we move on to Mrs. Lewis with all kinds of great news.
Are you ready for the colors?
I'm as ready as I've ever been.
I'm sure you are. So, we did things a little different this year. We talked to you about it last year. Last school year, we did all of our middle of the year PM2 testing in January. After all of that, it delayed change. It delayed, making actions on the middle of the year data that we received. So at the end of last year, we decided to move our PM2 window back into December, which also put it at the same time as midterms and IXL and iReady and all the things. But we wanted to be able to wrap up the first half of the year and walk back into the new year with information that we could do something about. And so as you look at the information you're gonna get to see, that's something to keep in mind because, there are some. Thank you. You're gonna see some effects, I think, and there's other factors as well. So I don't wanna stand up here and give you excuses, but I want you to give you things to think about that I do believe are affecting our data. This is just the colors of all of our school grade numbers from last year. So you've seen this before. These are all the numbers that we're trying to beat this year. So nothing really to memorize or anything on it. Just know that on that bottom row down there, we're trying to all get to purple. Because we're all trying, elementary schools, we're trying to get to 62%, and all of our combination schools, which are basically everybody else, are trying to reach 64%. These are the goals that we set at the end of last school year over the summer with our administrators for our district goals. Each of our schools also set goals. And so these are the numbers we're striving for. Go to the next one. And so here's where we are right now. I just want to explain a little bit of what you're looking at. In that first set of rainbow colors, on the left, you've got PM 1, 2, and 3 from last school year. And then the next set, you can see the colors shift down a little bit because what I've got it doing is color coding by the cohorts of kids. So we're looking at this in two different ways. We're looking, if you look at the K for kindergarten, across that row, we're comparing kindergartners last year to kindergartners this year. That's how we're compared by the state because it's the group of kids that you're working with right now. But we also want to look at cohorts of kids. So the kindergartners from last year, you can see are kind of that pink color, and then jumping down into this year, they're first graders. So where's the cohort of kids doing? How are those kids doing? In the next set of numbers where you see PM 1, 2, and 3 with the plus or minus at the top, under PM 2, you're going to see the change for that grade level. So first grade compared to first grade, second compared to second. That's the change of where we were last year at PM 2 this time to this year's PM 2. So in our elementary schools, you can see that we have, and this is ELA, by the way, our K1, 2, and 3 up to third grade, we are lower. We've got less kids on level, so a level 3 or higher at this point in the year than we did last year. Same for 5th grade ELA and 10th grade ELA. So before I jump into the next set, it hit me a minute ago, trying to how much we talked about. We've 1 month earlier, so it was 1 month less instruction, but also 7 days less of instruction lost from hurricanes. So for a reading block in elementary, that's 120 minutes plus a 30-minute reading intervention. You're talking about 150 minutes times 7 comes to 17 and a half hours of instruction in English language arts that we lost in elementary. Numbers are a little bit different for secondary as far as minutes, but look at our elementary effects compared to last year. So I feel like 1 month earlier testing and 7 days loss of instruction have made probably a big impact on our elementary classrooms. So again, not standing here to make excuses, but I do want us to just consider those pieces. Further to the right where you see PM2 goal at the top, after we finish PM1 in October, we pulled our administrators together in an admin workshop, and each school set a goal for where they wanted to be at this point for PM2. We did the same thing for the district. So the numbers that you see under that PM2 goal was the number we were shooting for. How did we decide what that number was going to be? Well, we looked at where did we end last year? Where did we want to end this year? And so for ELA, we wanted to increase our achievement by 3%. And so we went ahead and took that 3 and added it to mid-year. So we wanted to try to make all of our gains, our 3 points of gains, in just half a year, so that then we were just on not cruise control, I don't want to say it that way. We were just cruising higher for the second half of the year. So in the PM2 goal column, you'll see the red ones are the grade levels that didn't meet our PM2 goal. The green ones are the grade levels that did. Next column is PM2 notes. So that's just that. Now it's looking at cohorts of kids. So back to the rainbow colors, kindergartners last year to first graders to second graders. That shows you if that group of kids themselves, comparing apples to apples, what kind of changes they made. So first, second, and third grade had a slight drop as a same group of kids, but then our 4th grade all the way through 10th grade, as a group, all of them are higher, have higher achievement than they did last year. And then on the very far right, you can see what the end of the year goal is as a district by grade level. Any questions or anything about ELA?
When is the PM1 done?
When was PM1?
Yes,
September. We finished in September.
September.
Mm-hmm.
So September, December.
Yeah. I am very excited because I know the very bottom red box that you see there says 38. That was our grades 3 through 10 goal to meet. And if you jump to the left a little bit, we're at 37 right now. So we tried to gain 3 points, our whole goal for the whole year, in half a year, and we grew 2. We didn't quite meet our goal, but we have made more than half of our gains, and we wanted to make. So that is a celebration, even though it's red. All right, next slide, same exact thing for math, so I don't have to explain quite as much, but I will say, math has some other considerations to think about. So where thinking elementary gets 150 minutes of math, 150 minutes of ELA, math only has to have 60 minutes. So where we only lost 7 hours of instruction in elementary, ELA gets 17 and a half. They've lost 17 and a half, and math lost 7. So we can see a much bigger difference. You see a lot more red on this page. As a goal, we were trying to increase 4 percentage points in the percent of our kids on level. Looking in that PM2 column, celebrating second grade. Compared to second grade last year, they are 4 points higher, and seventh grade is 11 points higher.
I noticed that on the ELA, it was 10% for seventh graders also. Was there some change, or that just was the seventh graders?
Seventh
really?
grade is high on
I
both.
mean, yeah, plus
Yes.
10 and plus 11.
Yes.
I just thought that was an anomaly to have them so much. One
And we'll
grade
have our
level.
administrators together on January 29th for our admin workshop. So those are some things we're going to be digging into. You know, maybe what happened in sixth grade last year. We know sixth grade was high last year.
Right.
In math. And so is that just a continued result for seventh grade? It's just continuing on, because you can look and see the seventh grade cohort also is up 9.
Right.
So apples to oranges, they're up 11, but then apples to apples, they're up 9. So that group,
right.
yeah. And then celebrating also the cohort of kids. So our first graders this year, second graders, sixth graders, and seventh graders are higher percent of kids on level. And we have 2 grade levels that met our mid-year goal. So our second graders and our seventh graders met that mid-year goal. And then you can see where we're shooting for. Math is a little bit different because we know math is skill-based. ELA, you can exceed your level by other measures, but math is like, until somebody's taught it to you, you generally aren't going to be able to do well on the second half of the year standard. So some other things to think about too, the second to third grade shift. So looking at that second to third grade cohort of kids, they're down 16 points. One day I would like to present to you guys the difference in what the second grade end of year assessment on STAR looks like compared to the third grade assessment in FAST. It will rock your world to see what the change is in 1 year.
What do you think on the 8?
And then, so yes, 7th to 8th is the other biggie. Our end of year 7th graders, when they leave, they get some different pathways. So our higher achieving students move into algebra. So now you've scooped off all of the most successful students, and they're not in that 8th grade row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about
All right, go ahead. These are our data from science, and so you'll see in the first set there is LEA 2 from last year, and then the far right is LEA 2 this year. In between, I wanted to include where we ended, if it's a district EOC or district LEA. That's where we ended the year last year, so we're trying to exceed that number. And then the ones that are highlighted in yellow, those are state assessment scores from last year. So slight drops. Again, depending on the number of minutes of instruction, that same effect for the month, for the 7 days loss of instruction. Our 6th and 7th grade had changed their science course pathway, so we went from having three different courses in 6th, 7th, 8th to having a comprehensive science in 6th, 7th, 8th. So comparing the 6th and 7th grade rows to last year, they're not really comparable assessments. The next. I'm really excited. This is a snip from another presentation, so it's got some extra information on it. But what I wanted to show you is this year we went with district-wide data chats for our kids. So all of our teachers in ELA and math have been completing these sheets with our kids, having conversations so that before they take the test, they know what their goal is. And they know what their mid-year point was, where before we're just like, go do your best. Shoot for the stars. Now they kind of know what they're shooting for, and so when they finish their assessment, they can pull their score right from Florida, from the Florida reporting system, and they can see if they met their goal, and then how much farther they have to meet their PM3 goal. So I'm very excited about those. And then finally, grad rates were released this past week. And so much to celebrate. So last year, y'all know we were 4th in the state out of the 67 districts. We're 7th in the state this year. But what you'll see that the left picture, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the gray ones. Those are 5, that's the lab schools and Florida Virtual School. So they're not a district, so we took them out of our numbers, which makes Levy 7th in the state. But even if we did count them, we're 12th. Overall, with a 94.8% graduation rate. The state is at,
89.7.
thank you, 89. And then you can see on the right, the second picture are our individual schools. So Bronson's is at 98.2, Morgan? Okay. Cedar Key's at 100%, woo. Cheadle Middle High is 96.5, thank you. And Williston Middle High is at 92. You can see some other breakdowns with our ESE cohorts, and races are at the bottom. So y'all know blood, sweat, and tears get poured into these numbers right here, and I'm very excited of how well our district does to make sure kids graduate. So that's all the data that we have at this time. I think we're obviously everybody is working extremely hard, but what I'm excited about is this year we have an extra month of instruction. January's not interrupted by any assessments. Teachers are just teaching their hearts away at this point already. So
I think we felt too, just coming back from break, we want sure how the kids be ready to take tests
right.
versus doing these
Right.
things. I don't know.
Yep.
With the
On
lost instruction
vacation
though, with
mode.
the holiday, I don't know if it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hurricane.
And I think about what Ms. Westfall said after hurricane, especially Cedar Key and Yankeetown. I remember having a conversation, and she said, I really, not to make excuses, but I'm a glass half full person, but she said, I feel like we're just starting school right now because there had been so many disruptions. So a month and a week and a half, that's a big deal.
Hey,
I mean,
before
it's-
school started, even the teachers, had them a couple of days right there with the first one.
Yeah.
Debbie, I guess it was, it's just, it was a hard get going, like I say. It was kind of
Yeah.
everything that you really get going to.
Well, in my experience at Joyce Bullock, the second half of the year is where more growth was made.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, there's just some sort of maturity that happens in all of them after Christmas break. Their brains just got to rest a little bit, and then there's so much extra growth in that second half. So I hope it can make up for all the things that we listed and take all those reds away. So, if you guys have questions, I think they get the link. Okay, so you'll be able to dig into the slides, and if you've got questions about anything, let me know.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
All right, Madam Superintendent.
Yes. Board, this you'll see is the 2025-2026 Master Board Program. This is offered through FSBA, and your new training, they probably mentioned it. It's a great practice to do, especially since we have 2 new school board members, and then I, of course, rolled into a new position. And it's a great learning tool as a group.
Yeah.
And it would be just us, just the board. And this time it would be a couple days of training, and they'll give us those dates. We don't have the dates now, but what this is, it's approval by yourselves as a board to follow through with this master board training as a group, as a whole.
I felt like, we did the one day, because it was just me 2 years ago, but I felt like it learned a lot,
Yes,
learning
sir.
how to operate as a board and about each other, so I
Yes,
think it helped a lot. So it's a multiple day, it's 2 days.
Probably a multiple day,
It's
and
because
Tina,
Because it's two and the
Because there's
superintendent,
3 new ones,
Right.
it'll be 2 days.
okay,
Because
consecutive.
last year with just, or 2 years ago with 2
Yes,
new ones, it was just
It
one
was just
day.
me, I think, I was only,
Just
I
you.
just was me, yeah.
The
Yes,
form
sir.
is in the board
Yeah, I
chairman's
made it easy
file.
on you. See, all these other ones, they make it hard.
Everybody has to sign it if you're all in agreement. Mr. Chairman, it's in your file.
It's in my file,
Yes, sir.
but we'll dig it out.
It's the one with all the stickers on it.
It would be here at the board office, like,
Yes.
Is that where we would have it?
yes, sir,
consecutive days, 2 consecutive days.
yes, sir.
Well, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
How about that? Won't nobody mind?
Do we take a
You're the
vote
one
on
that
it?
matters, Cameron. You're the one that matters.
That's right. Finally.
Well, it's 2 full days.
She hasn't learned the master board. You never say that. She hasn't learned. She went to master board. So
It took Paige Brookins forever to realize that.
Well, she's a slow learner. I was.
Did I pick it up? Y'all know these stickers
So learned
don't-
all the stickers.
There we go.
Yes, sir.
do we take a vote? What do we do?
I'm gonna assume that by signing this is your vote.
Okay. All right.
Yes, it has to be a motion.
We
Yes,
have,
it
yes,
has
we
to
need
be
a
a
motion.
I say move that we move forward with the master board program.
Second.
Any questions or whatever makes Cameron happy? Like that. All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We will move on to our next item, Madam Superintendent.
Yes. Board, what you have attached is a final order with an employee of Jonathan Irizarry, and I'm sure you've already read over that. What this basically states is, based on the charges that have been filed against the employee, there is a recommendation that this employee will be terminated, but also that this employee will be placed on the disqualification list. And I talked to council earlier, and of course I talked to David Delaney, but council, if you would like to go into explaining the time frame when we vote tonight, or the board votes tonight on this document, and then the time frame that Mr. Irizarry has, and the stipulation of voting tonight and how long that carries forth.
Right, good evening, Board. This employee, like every other employee, has a statutory right to request a hearing. That right is 15 days from receipt of this letter from the superintendent, which recommends termination. I believe, Madam Superintendent, that was received yesterday by
That is
Mr.
correct.
Irizarry, so that
That
would
is
give
correct.
him until January 28th, according to my calculation, to request a hearing or waive a hearing. So you can vote today in favor or along with the superintendent's recommendation to terminate. However, there is a caveat or a contingency that Mr. Irizarry not request a hearing within this 15-day period.
Has everyone had a chance to read over the information? I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now move over to public comments. Do we have anyone here tonight that would like to address the board? Did we receive any emails?
No, sir.
All right, we are going to move on to the board minutes. Are there any changes needed to the minutes?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Has everyone had a chance to read over the minutes of the last meeting? I will entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll now move to our consent agenda, and I'll start with Mrs. Campbell. Do you have any questions on our consent agenda?
No, this doesn't include the instructional. That's a separate. This is separate?
It does include.
Instructional,
Or is
it's
it part of it?
13.7 and 13.8.
Instructional
Yes,
service
ma'am.
contract, that's-
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Yes, ma'am.
That's separate, or is it part of it?
That's part of
Part
this.
It's part
It
of
is part of this. Well, I already, I did have some question about it, and I already have spoken to Tammy about those questions.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was in relation to Kathy Lawrence being, let's see what the wording says. Under OPS to provide assistance to the district. And I see here that it is listed for various administrative, operational, and other needs as directed by the superintendent. And I had asked, under the OPS policy, that it needed to be more specific to show exactly what Kathy was being asked to do.
Yes, ma'am.
So that it didn't interfere with people who already had certain jobs.
Yes, ma'am.
But I see that you have added that,
Yes,
and it
ma'am.
looks good.
Thank you. And thank you for asking.
Ms. Baxter?
I actually had lots of questions earlier today, including that one, but Madam Superintendent answered my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Whitehurst?
Madam Superintendent answered all my questions.
All my questions were answered as well.
Well, thank y'all. All of my questions were answered, but I do have something I want to point out. Usually I point this out for the benefit of whoever's from Williston. But tonight I'm gonna point this
the
out
benefit of-
to Ms. Baxter.
Oh,
Okay.
boy.
Do you see line number 4, the new principal
Oh,
at Chiefland Middle High School?
Yes.
You are guaranteed more success than ever before at Chiefland Middle High School. Do you know why?
Why is
Because
that?
she came
Because she
from
went
Came
to
from
Bronx.
Bronx. Okay, nothing against prior people. Now we got that out of the way.
Poor Matt.
Just give it time. You look around the county and you see where they came from. All right. So I don't have anything else. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Boom. We'll now move into our finance part of the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the finance? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to
I
approve.
make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll now move on to our superintendent's comments, highlights, and recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Madam Superintendent.
Appreciate that. I just wrote a list here, so I stay on task. Your time is very valuable. I want to say thank you to everyone that was in our first workshop today. Some of you don't know, but we did start at 3:30, and we did a legislative platform workshop where district team was here, and the board was here, and council, and we had Dr. Kim McDougall Zoom in, and I think we had great discussion, and we heard a lot of valuable information and built our legislative action. We'll be going to Tallahassee, and we will be sending in an appropriations through the Senate and the House. And so that's a big deal too. We'll be asking for that roofing project, and we do have sponsorship, and we're gonna probably ask for a little bit more that the board determined today through that workshop, so we'll see where that goes, but it's very exciting. Go to a little sad stuff, then I'll go back to the happy stuff, but we've been through a trying time this past week, and I feel that it was handled very well from all aspects. Thank you to Mr. Lott and Mr. McClelland, and for acting so swiftly and spending a lot of time, and for the support that has been given the school and others involved, I think that it was handled in a very professional manner. And we will get through it. We'll get through it together, and we'll be stronger, and that's what we do together. Coming up is on the 23rd, the district spelling bee, so that's always nice. And Literacy Week, of course, is the week of the 27th. Shout out to Mr. Stockman back there for the bus area behind Williston Elementary. Had the team work on it, and I know it looks wonderful because a couple of us happened to be out there and drove past it. So thank you very much for getting that done. That was a full day, and I'm sure Mr. Wayne has already heard great things. And I know you gave him a dig, but I'd like to welcome Mr. McClellan here as our second assistant superintendent. And I also want to thank Mr. Lott for everything he has done and the district staff that you have done. Board, I just want you to know that they have been working hard with me and putting in all the effort that they can for me here, and it has, in my opinion, been wonderful. A lot to learn, and they are not holding back and standing by my side 100%, so I'm thankful for all of you, and I appreciate it very much. And that is all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. Who wants to start?
Sir,
Oh.
that's fine.
Ms. Clemency, you start.
I'll be quick. I just want to say, hey, thank you to Ms. Lewis tonight for the data. I know that was a lot of work to present to us, and not the best report to present to us. But again, I have faith, and we're in a unique situation being in Levy County with the natural disasters we were hit with. So I have full confidence that this next step will be better. Bronson, Yankeetown, and Chiefland, the principals had the opportunity to attend the Literacy Series conference, and Ms. Westfall said that it was just amazing. And they all three walked away just super excited about what they learned. And also, she said to point out that all of the recommendations that the conference suggested for our schools to put in place, Levy County had already implemented. She said across the board, we in some way have already implemented those procedures. So that's it. That's all I really have. Everything's in full swing. FFA, baseball, so it's starting to pick up and be a busy season. So that's all I have.
Excellent. Mr. Whitehurst.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lewis, for the presentation. Like I say, it's good to see the data. I mean, and that way, if you see it, then you can make adjustments. And I know everybody's working hard, and kind of dig in to kind of tell the telltale signs of what can be improved and different stuff. And I know we had FFA districts today. We're in Chiefland. We had middle school team got third in OCC. Middle school second par pro. My daughter Mabry got third in prepared public for middle school. My daughter Annabelle won for the high school prepared public, and Peyton Andrews won for Creed. So Annabelle and Peyton will be competing in the state level, representing Levy County. So proud of them. Peyton actually was there last year too. I think he got second on it, I think, Melissa. So he's hoping to get one more better this year. So very good. Attended a basketball game last night against Chiefland. It didn't turn out too good for your Indians last night, but it was entertaining. And like I say, all that's in full swing. Soccer, basketball, getting ready for baseball soon, softball. So all the things. Kids are just getting in the swing, but they hit the ground running. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Baxter.
Again, thank you, Melissa, for that report. We'd like to see a different report, but I do know that's a lot of work that goes into that. Also want to thank Breezy, and Kim has already gone out, I think, but for their input during our workshop. I appreciated that. Chiefland Elementary, they're starting this week a volunteer grandparent reading program. I think Cedar Key already has that program in place, but they're excited about that to work with first and second graders in, individually or in small groups to come in and read with them. So we're hoping that's gonna help. They also had an amazing school improvement and PD day last week when they returned from break. They looked over they reviewed the PM2 data and reviewed explicit instruction and AVID strategies. So they're ready to finish the year strong. At the high school, their beta club just attended the state convention last week, and they competed and placed in many events. Also, the weightlifting, the girls weightlifting team brought back some awards this past weekend. So they're doing well, and I guess there's going to be districts coming up, and 4 Levy schools will be competing. And also Chiefland is happy to have Michelle Crawford, whom a lot of you know. She's come back to teach Ag Foundations for the semester, and so they're grateful for that. And the FFA districts was when? Today? Today.
Yeah, the First Baptist. Yeah.
So, and that's all I have for you.
Chiefland won Park Run.
Good.
The high school.
I'm
The high
not
school.
surprised,
Yeah,
because
the high
that's
school,
their
yeah.
strength,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, they won high school, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for
You're welcome.
giving that.
Thank you, Ms. Baxter. Mrs. Campbell?
I too want to thank you, Melissa, for the report. When I look at it, I know there are areas that we need to step up in, but when I look at it, I just think about all the learning that has taken place, and I think about how hard every teacher has worked, and you all have worked to get us to the point that we're at. And I do want to thank you for that support. And I do want to commend our teachers, because they are a group of very hardworking educators. And I love when I visit the schools and see what's going on. And it's much more than just the numbers on the report that you just gave. But thank you. Basketball season's underway in Cedar Key, and homecoming is next week. The theme is the movies, so it's going to be a fun week. And there's going to be an alumni game, so that will be fun. And then I'm also looking forward to Literacy Week that's coming up. So, but we're in full swing.
Excellent. Thank you, Mrs. Campbell. Since everybody else did it, I'm not going to thank you. Shrink it down. Shrink it down. Somebody got to get you where you can get out of the building, okay? Shrink it down. That's bad. Anyway, we got to have a light moment. We won't go into it, but I would ask a favor of everyone that is here and everyone that can hear this and everybody that knows anything. My little town's hurting. There's a great tragedy on multiple levels. And this school district did a great job with the tragedy, and that's to compliment everybody. But I would ask that if you have time, pray for my little town. We got multiple tragedies at one time, in one moment. And that's not taking a side, that's not anything. That's just saying, we have a tragedy, and I appreciate it. Next meeting, I promise I will come with big news and all kind of happy-go-lucky thoughts and things like that. But right now, it's a little tough in Bronson. And I appreciate your prayers for everybody involved. And if there's nothing else, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.